Rebecca Breeds plays Clarice in the new CBS series, Clarice. I'm Matt Noble of Gold Derby, and I want to start by asking you, Beck, will we ever see Dr. Lecter in the series?
In the series, look, I don't think we'll see him. We refer to him, though we dare not say his name. He's gone a bit Voldemort-y on us. Just there are some licensing things with MGM. So there are a couple of other characters we have. We have Ruth Martin, we have Crenla, we have Catherine Martin, all from the original. Crenla, did I say Crenla? Because I meant to say Crenla. Yeah, but we mention him in that, like in therapy sessions, we refer to him, and we definitely acknowledge the impact he had and continues to have on her life. But yeah, we can't, at least for now, like have him show, Hannibal's here, great,
Fair enough. And you're playing Clarice, who's sort of made famous, won an Oscar for Jodie Foster in Silence of the Lambs. How much of like her performance sort of informed what you're doing, or how much did you want to sort of make it your own and sort of not have Jodie Foster be in your head?
Yeah, well, I'm in an incredible position in that I have two wonderful actresses who have gone before me in this role, but there's also an amazing book. Like, if you haven't read The Silence of the Lambs, I highly recommend it. Thomas Harris is amazing. So I had a lot of different points of reference to kind of glean from. I think it's really wonderful for an actress to be the first one to create that role. You get to set a lot of who they are, and people who come after get to kind of riff on that and reinvent that. I think Jodie did an incredible job setting up this character, and I wanted to definitely honor that. And I think one of the best ways I could do that without I couldn't copycat her. It just doesn't work. It needed to, Clarice is an incredibly authentic person. So obviously it needs to be an incredibly authentic performance. So I think one of the main things that I got to take from her was that very grounded strength that she has, but also where she pitched the accent. Because most dialects, there's a spectrum, right? They can be, pushed one way or the other. And where she pitched the accent was so wonderful for me, because I was researching the accent. I was like, whoa, I could go really far down this street, or I could like dance on the sidewalk over here. And having a point of reference for that was such a gift for me. And as soon as I did the accent, I was like, oh, Clarice, like here she is. So it really brings the character home, and it informs her culture, her upbringing, so much of her history, her values, even her value system. So it's not just an accent, it's such an important part of character. So that was a wonderful thing to pay homage to that. But then also I got the book, that goes into such depth. And it was such a wonderful experience reading the book and gleaning all the Clarice character parts out of it, going, Jodie would have done the same thing, Julianne would have done the same thing. Now I'm a part of that legacy. I'm getting to do this as well. So it's a pretty awesome experience.
Yeah, and you talked about Clarice's grounded strength, and she's such a strong female character, while at the same time, I think what the show explores is this sort of also her vulnerability, and sort of her wanting to sort of maybe hide her vulnerability a lot in the show. How did you weigh sort of strength and weakness in this sort of portrayal?
Ooh, it's interesting, because that is the stigma, to associate vulnerability with weakness. But yeah. I think to be able to maintain vulnerability whilst also stay effective, that is an incredible strength. And I think what makes her so effective in the field is the way she keeps her vulnerability, she keeps her empathy, is that she sees not just the clinical side, which she's very well trained in, but she also sees very much the human side. And so that's, these lenses, this lens that she has into these cases that often her male counterparts maybe don't have, which trips them up. So when we meet her in the film, in The Silence of the Lambs, she's fresh out of the academy. She has past trauma that I think at that point is probably fueling her, how driven she is to, save the lambs and get the bad guys and all that kind of thing. But then she has her own very dark experience. And I think for me, what she goes through in the film is a trigger point to bring up a lot of her past trauma, but it's also a current trauma. And she's realizing that being an FBI agent is a valiant job, but also there's a toll. And I think we explore in season 1, what is that toll, and will she have to close up? Is her empathy is she gonna have to harden and close up that side of her? Is it too hard? And we see her wrestle with that. And I think we see her decide in this season whether or not she's going to throw it all away, whether or not she's going to just harden up and let the rage kind of calcify her, or whether she's going to do what she needs to heal and protect herself so that she can marry the two together and walk that line, and I think be even more effective in the field, you know? So she's being able to keep them both, but keep them both in a more effective way, that she doesn't have this lingering trauma that she's kind of sweeping under the mat or trying to use as fuel, but it's going to burn up eventually, or it's going to be too much, or it's going to overwhelm her. So we get to watch her on that journey in the first season of the show, and hopefully many more seasons, and we see that humanity unfold.
What was the most challenging scene for you to approach?
Oh, I think in episode 5, she wakes up paralyzed from the waist down, but also kind of really druggy. And then she's hallucinating because her trauma's being triggered. So she's kind of seeing stuff. But then, you know, her captor is coming over to like torture her and get information out of her. And she has these really cognizant, very powerful intellectual conversations with her, you know, trying to, you know, fight for her life while still get information for the case. And to, you know, and then there's like physical torture, she's being defibrillated, but then I'm also drugged, but I'm shocked. And that, you know, to find the way to truthfully mash all that together was like, it was like I was in chemistry class again, just going, I don't know, chuck a few of these potions in there and hopefully it doesn't blow up. Hopefully something in this works. So that, I think episode 5, how to put all the physicality with the drugginess, with her trauma and what she's imagining with the stakes, was just nuts. So that was the first thing that comes to mind. But there was a lot of heavy stuff.
I think something in that episode you talked about, the Get Right with God episode, where you wake up in the bed. A lot of that episode, because you've been drugged, because of other things that are going on, you're having to lie down and just observe what's happening around you, or Clarice is at least. And there's a scene in the next episode too, where you're sitting at like a dinner table and Ruth and Catherine having this big argument right in front of you. And I think like some of Clarice's really interesting bits is when you're just observing and not saying anything.
Yeah.
How do you sort of process sort of those scenes, and like how do you sort of the scenes where you've got silence of Clarice?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, Matt. I think it's like the duck, right? Cool on the surface, but underneath the little legs are just going for it. So yeah. I think that's what she's doing. She's very intelligent, and she, you know, her whole job is behavioral science. And behavioral science, well, that's her specialty. And behavioral science is reading what's going on and I think she has an incredible amount of emotional intelligence as well. So especially what's going on with, you know, at the dinner party, there's behaviorisms going on, but there's also a lot of emotional, you know, posturing and manipulation and things going on that she's reading all the time. And she reads it to glean information, but she's also reading it going, okay, what's my next step? What's my next move? You know, to be effective in whatever my current, you know, mission is, you know, whether it's to bring peace to this family or, you know, find the bad guy, whatever it is, you know. So it's a very, very powerful magic little tool that she has that definitely puts her ahead in her game. But sometimes can that be too loud? Sometimes is what you're noticing and what you're hearing and what you're sensing all the time. It's so alive in her, so loud, that I'm sure at times it adds a lot to her overwhelm, and it could be also very triggering to her. So it's hard for her sometimes to constantly be seeing and feeling and hearing what she's seeing. I'm sure it's a part of what takes a toll on her.
Yeah. How do you, like, as an actress, like, say something when you don't have dialogue or something to say?
How do I say something when nothing is written for me?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, no, it's a great question. I think sometimes letting go of the need to say something actively says something. So if I'm the audience member watching Rebecca playing Clarice, and Rebecca playing Clarice in that moment is like picking food out of her teeth and thinking about like how we're going to get this guy, or listening to Crenla say something like incredibly frustrating that she can't say anything back to, and you're just listening, you feel like you're not doing anything and nothing's being said physically, but I mean, all the things you're feeling, all the energy that is coursing through your body, processing or whatever it's doing, is saying something. So I think in my younger years as an actress, I always felt the need to be active. I was always like, okay, you better show that you're reacting to this thing and show them that you're listening and like do this thing. And now I think as I'm growing up, I'm learning to trust myself as a person a lot more. And in that, I think as an actress, I'm learning to rest in the character a lot more and not feeling the need to constantly be doing things. And in doing that, you're doing a lot. You're just not trying to do it. You're still, a lot is being conveyed without you actively engaging and conveying that. It's just you being a human, which is what we want to see, right? That's what we watch the telly for. So yeah, that's been a wonderful, it actually makes my job easier. It's like, oh, just, you don't have to do anything or say anything, just be in this moment. And that's where all the aliveness is. And that's like that's the bit like we're all addicted to, I think, that realness. And yeah, that's fun.
Yeah. We found out that it's a sin for Clarice to have blind spots. But in this performance as an actress, is it a sin to have blind spots, or do you want to sort of have areas of mystery about who Clarice is when you approach sort of the character?
I think I definitely need to have areas of mystery so that we stay in discovery, because we haven't locked off who Clarice Starling is. We have a wonderful foundation with the book. We have a great leaping off point with the film, the first film, obviously Silence of the Lambs. And now there's this kind of place in the middle where we're back into we're discovery, we're exploring, we're getting to play, it's like we've had the outlines all done, but now we get to color it in and add stuff. And I think that's really fun. And yeah, I think you just don't know everything. And it's really fun to get a new script and be like, wow, she went there, like she did that. And that's cool. I didn't see that coming. I hope she would, but I didn't see it coming because so she's constantly unfolding. So I think it's really fun to have the mystery, and it's exciting for me because I'm like, oh, I don't know what's going to come out. And the thing is to make sure that I continue to ground whatever's coming out of me in the character and not just becoming Rebecca as Clarice, keeping Rebecca the lifeblood that is the beating heart that is Clarice, rather than it being the other way around. So you still have to be intentional, but you want to stay in the mystery and the discovery, which is really fun. It's dangerous. I don't know what I'm going to discover.
Yeah. How you like Clarice and how you not like Clarice?
How am I like Clarice?
Yeah.
Oh, good question. She's stubborn, very determined. I think she's pretty good at reading people, reading a room. She has behavioral science she's really good at. I think I have that more in an emotional sense. I'm good at kind of reading where people are at energetically and emotionally. I'm very affected by that, probably why I do what I do. Yeah, very driven, can be her own worst enemy sometimes. Yeah. Definitely that. Exhausts herself. I do that. I work pretty hard, maybe not in the same capacity that she does. Yeah, in a lot of ways, I suppose. Yeah. One thing I really love about her, which I'm not saying like I'm super intelligent, but she's a very intelligent character. And for me, it was such a relief to play a character that it's like, what thing am I going to do now? Are we going to go on the intellectual slide, or are we going to go on the monkey bars? Especially the opening scene of the show in season in the pilot, where she's being interviewed by the therapist,
Yeah.
She goes, okay, what am I going to do this time? We're going to, how am I going to come back at you with this thing? She's as smart as him, if not smarter. And I'm getting addicted to this. I really enjoy it. Because a lot of the roles in Hollywood that we play with are I'm the girlfriend and a guy or the whatever. And I'm bored of it, Matt. I'm bored.
Yeah.
So this is this is a gift. This is an absolute gift. So I love that part of Clarice as well. I love being able to pretend to be as intelligent as she is.
Yeah. And like the show also like not just Clarice, who was able to sort of like give a much more fleshed out character of a woman than a lot of other shows and a lot of things we've seen in the past, but also like the show's able to delve into issues and like take this sort of old story or at least new story based on an old story, but look at it through sort of a new lens. And even like in the most recent episode, the way it looked at transphobia and sort of this meta commentary on Silence of the Lambs through that. What's it like to be able to explore these sort of issues in this context?
Yeah, I think it's integral. I think it's powerful. I think it's important. I think when you're in it, if we tried to do this in the 90s, I think it's a little close for people to really have the perspective. When we put it in a period piece now, which is crazy because how old are we?
Yeah.
Oh my God. When was the 90s? What is that? Like 27 years. I think the film came out in 92.
Yeah. When we were kids. When they're like, yeah.
You know, it's funny. Everyone asks me, oh, so did you go to the cinema? Like, what was your first experience with Silence of the Lambs? I'm like, dude, I was 3. Like, if I did, please like take me away from my parents. That's not okay.
Yeah.
So I think having a little bit of distance, you go, oh, I can't believe they did that. But then you go, oh, but that is still actually kind of happening, and it's easy to look at something that maybe, I don't know, I'm spitballing here. I'm not being very eloquent, but
that's okay.
It's easy to look at something further away from you and be able to see it for what it is than a reflection you're used to seeing every day.
Yeah.
When you see yourself every single day, you get this, sometimes your picture of yourself can be warped, whereas you see fresh eyes. I guess we're kind of giving those, outmoded cultural structures a kind of fresh eyes through the 90s, but that are still incredibly relevant, and using this tool of like, we've all, a lot of people watching this show, you lived the 90s, you were there, you saw it, that was the way society and culture is, and we're still living that. But it's the 2020s now, and you can kind of have it may not feel as close to the bone, so you can watch it whilst then realizing, oh wait, this is still a thing, that maybe it's time to update a few of these things. So it's very powerful to be a part of exploring these Neanderthalic outmoded societal that were norms at the time, and being a part of the transformation, being a part of the updating of the software of our society, and going, guys, that's ancient, that's old thinking. Like, we need to update new code of what this is, and we do that by not just increasing our understanding through these characters, but also attaching an emotional experience to these people who we love and who we know, and then they have an experience with this person, and I'm on that person's journey, so then I am getting that emotional experience with that person. You move from a concept, an intellectual concept, to a place of physical understanding, because you're having an emotional experience with these people on the journey learning. And that's why I love that Clarice is learning. She's a product of her environment and culture of the 90s. She's ignorant to a lot of this stuff. She's naive. She doesn't mean any harm to anyone necessarily, but she has to go, oh, I've been complicit in this. And, you know, through her human-based interactions with these incredible people that she meets, she's like, oh, I got to update my software, you know, and oh, okay. And she becomes a part of the transformation, a part of the solution. And we go on that journey with her, and we're like, oh, well, at some point, everyone just needs to learn, right? There's nothing wrong with learning. And we see this wonderful woman who is full of integrity and strength, humble herself and go, oh, I didn't understand. I didn't know. But now I'm lucky enough to meet the people who are helping me learn, and we're getting to hopefully spread that in, you know, provide that opportunity for people who are watching the show as well.
Yeah, there's strength in being vulnerable. There you go. Now, you said, now, in interest of full disclosure, we went to high school together, Beck. Back
in the same grade.
We both did drama. We shared a stage.
Were you in the zombie? You remember when we did the zombie thing too?
Yeah.
Zombie.
Oh yeah. That's good. You said that there's nothing wrong with learning. What is something you learnt from drama in back at school, back at St Andrew's Cathedral School, that you've taken with you in your career and in the performances you've got now?
Oh, that is a great question. I think the school I went to before St Andrews, we didn't have a drama class. I went to drama outside of school, but I think there was an that class was insatiable for me. I couldn't get enough. I couldn't learn enough. And I left school and 2 years of drama, and I still couldn't get enough and couldn't learn enough. So if I've learned anything, I think I've learned that you never stop learning when you love the arts. It's constantly evolving, and that is very satisfying. Well, I like that because I'm insatiable with it. I can't get enough. So it's lovely to learn that it never stops, but it also holds you accountable to being like, are you still learning? Are you still growing? And how are you doing that? You know? And I think also, I'm going to add on to that. What I loved about our class and what we did was that it was such a community thing. There wasn't like a star in our drama department, at least not how I remember it. I remember that we were all kind of just in it, creating something together. And I think going on from that, I've worked in, you know, professionally with and unprofessionally in a lot of ensembles. And I can say that the community you create with your other artists, with your team members, the people you're working with, is so powerful. And you have to be on board with like, hey, we're going to like go into the unknown here. Let's go explore something. And I've got you back and you've got my back, and I support you, and we can feel safe to like just try something here. And I think that was a really powerful thing that I took away from it, and something that I try and take into all my jobs. And this one definitely, like our cast, like Michael, Nick, Luca, Devin, I mean, Jane, Marnie, like, I just can't love them enough. Like every day we get to work and I see them, I'm like, oh, you, this human that I love, but then, oh my gosh, and I respect you so much as an artist, and I can't wait to get on set and like see what you're going to do today and how we're going to, you know, evolve this thing off the page into real life. And we have such a, you know, such a team that we just love. So anyway, that was something I think I've definitely also taken away from our class.
Yeah. And look, I think the school for me was just that sense of community, and the culture of community was really strong, and something I really appreciated. And it's just so exciting, Beck, to see you off doing something that you love doing after school.
I'm very blessed. I'm very lucky.
Some would say I peaked at high school. I think you've just kept going, which is fantastic.
I don't think so. I never said that. The sky.
No, you never said that. No, yeah, no. That's, so thanks very much, Beck, for talking to us today. People can who are watching this interview can go to goldderby.com to make your own awards predictions, watch videos of contenders, and join discussion in the spicy forums. Beck, thanks for spending the time with us today.
Matt, it's been awesome.
Been so cool.
Let's do this again.